Alrighty, so it looks like we have a majority of people here. So hello everyone and welcome back from intermission. So for this next workshop, we're going to have Dr. Christensen Grant, and he's going to be presenting on behalf of Roseman University of Health Sciences, and he's going to be giving tips on becoming a successful pharmacy school applicant. So everyone, please welcome Dr. Christensen Grant and give him a very warm round of applause.
Hi guys. I gave myself a round of applause as well. How funny.
Very deserved.
So nice to see everyone. I'm glad that you're joining us today. It's so nice to see all these friendly faces and familiar faces. This is one of the best things about coming to Pre-Pharmacy Day or really any event at UCI. It's like catching up with old friends, you know. I'm going to come one year with like a UCI family reunion t-shirt. It'll be fun. But if you want to go ahead and share my slides, we can go ahead and get started whenever you guys are ready.
Perfect. All right, so I'll go ahead and share the slides. And beforehand, I just want to let our attendees know to please direct your questions in the chat to our student's questions speaker, Adriana, via the chat. And if time allots at the end of the presentation, your questions will be asked by them. And also please note that our timer Clayton will be updating the chat and the Zoom background with 10-minute and 5-minute markers for the time. So without further ado, let me share the slides.
And so while those are getting kicked up, guys, I'm going to let you know a little spoiler. You're here for a big old nerdy presentation. So I am a huge nerd, as most of us are. I think it's very rare that we think about coming into pharmacy if we aren't big nerds. And so I'm a pharmacy nerd. I'm also a gaming nerd, which is what we're going to be talking a little bit about today. And you'll always know me because I think slowly I'm evolving into the colored hair pharmacist. So I'm currently a little bit lavender, but you may see me pink one day, who knows? So if you ever see a pharmacist with colored hair, it's probably me.
Alrighty, are you ready? Shall I start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Perfect.
So guys, today we're going to be talking about character creation in the context of video games and your life as a pharmacy student, and how you are, just like in so many video games that we play for the gamers out there, how are you going to level up your character and how are you going to level up your application? Next slide, please. As mentioned, I am Dr. Christensen Grant with Roseman University College of Pharmacy. I am the Assistant Director of Admissions and Student Affairs. I am an impassioned pharmacist. I love what I do. I'm also a clinical pharmacist and faculty member. My specialty lies in internal medicine, which means that I work, or my history is working in the hospital with patients that aren't in the ICU, but are in the hospital, really located anywhere else. So that's kind of my expertise. I did pharmacy school in North Carolina. You could probably tell I'm a good old Southern boy. I have tried to get rid of my accent, but it does not leave me. So I am a Southern boy, and I made my way through pharmacy really through 2 years of residency. After I graduated, I went and did my first year of residency in Indiana, and then I did my second year of residency down at the University of Texas in Austin. And now I'm in my 7th year with Roseman. I've been coming to Pre-Pharmacy Day for I don't even know how long now, but it's always such a joy. So that's a little bit about me professionally, but it's kind of funny to talk about my professional nature whenever you have this big goober on your screen. But I wanted to talk about uh, a little bit of my gaming history, give me a little bit of street cred. So I definitely love gaming. My favorite games are Final Fantasy. I love all Final Fantasies. Final Fantasy VII Remake that just came out, amazing. Can't put it down. Also, big Overwatch fan. I love Mass Effect because I love sci-fi. I think it's so fun, and I love venturing off to crazy worlds and things like that. Also love Persona 5. I didn't expect it, but I love Persona 5. I honeymooned in Tokyo, so spending some of my gaming time in a Tokyo world was super fun for me as well. Currently, I'm playing Team Fight Tactics and Stardew Valley. I love Stardew Valley. I love doing a little bit of farming, a stressful day, and then I go and water some turnips. Hello, that's like the most relaxing thing in the entire world, and I love making my farm look wonderful. So all of these games have this kind of idea of building yourself up and strengthening yourself. Nobody starts the game out as like the ultimate character that has, no weaknesses. They have unlimited strength. And so today we're going to talk about how you have limited time as an undergrad, and you have limited um, ways to dedicate and make yourself better. So let's make it smart, just like you do in a game. Next slide, please. So whenever choosing your path, it's really important to think about the beginnings. And so this is a screenshot from a new game that came out, Cyberpunk. Super fun game to play. It's very sci-fi. I love it. But in the very beginning of the game, you have to choose your life path. So are you going to be a nomad, a street kid? Are you going to be more of this corporate world kind of person? And so when choosing your path with pharmacy school, you guys have really already done that. When you go into undergrad, are you going to be an art kid? Are you really into theater or singing or music? Are you more into the social sciences? Or are you more into the health sciences, the biological sciences, chemistry? So luckily, in terms of choosing your career path, those very early steps, you guys are already on that path as being a part of Pre-Pharmacy Day and the Pre-Pharmacy organization. Next slide. So whenever you're building your skills, just like in the game, you design a character and you get a number of skill points that you get to say, I'm going to spend my skill points to make my character maybe a more smart, nerdy character or a more buff, strong character. So you guys can see here in my gameplay, I was living my green mohawk gold makeup metallic fantasy. And I was deciding to make her have a lot of intelligence and really cool, but I didn't make her as strong. And so I was designing my character as to what I wanted my outcomes to be. And so we can apply that to you guys as pre-pharmacy students. Next slide, please. So the question becomes, how in the world are we going to spend our skill points? Where are we going to put our efforts forth to strengthen our application as you guys are entering the competitive world of applying to healthcare graduate schools? Next slide, please. So I want you to think that when you are applying to pharmacy school and you're deciding where to spend your skill points, that you are submitting and a pharmacy school is seeing, other than meeting you at events like this, they're seeing your application. That is your way of communicating who you are, what you're about. And so when you're thinking about leveling yourself up, you want to be thinking about what is going to go in that application, because that is who you are, unless you're and meet someone at an event like this, and then you do have additional stories to tell, an additional kind of experience in meeting with someone. So it's amazing that you guys are all here, and seeing you guys all on the camera. It really helps too that I'll see you on interview day. I was like, oh, we've met before, and you become a little bit more than your application. So we want to talk about the 4 main places that you have the ability to enhance your application. And we want to take you from like 1996 cloud here to full-blown 2020 cloud and upgrading yourself to this cool looking dude. Next slide, please. So first we have some core traits. These luckily are things that you just exist about you. They're just telling a little bit of who you are. So you don't have to spend any time here, no skill points required. These are just your basic background. Some important tips that I could give you for filling out kind of the personal information is make sure your information is correct and updated, because as far as address and phone numbers, this is the way that pharmacy schools are going to reach out to you. You may get a phone call, you may get a text, you may receive something in the mail. So hot tip is to make sure that those are filled out and correct and updated as those things change. Another thing to keep in mind is to be very open and honest about all aspects of your application. If you have a blemish on your application, if you maybe had some like a legal issue, maybe you had a misdemeanor for something that was really outside of your hands or something like that, you have to be open and honest, because being open and honest lets the College of Pharmacy review those things, work with you on understanding kind of the context of maybe a bad grade or something like that. But if it's discovered and it wasn't openly revealed on your application, it can have a lot more negative consequences because it seems like you're trying to hide something. And there is, as far as the Pharmcast Code of Conduct, a big no-no to hide things from your application. Next slide, please. So in terms of academic history, I feel like I would be silly if I didn't say this, so I just have to. You have to try to strive for academic excellence. I know that not all of us can do as well as we would always like in every single course, and trust me, as an admissions committee, we understand that. And I don't want to paint the picture that everyone in the College of Pharmacy that's admitting you is a faculty member because they got 4.0s on everything. Like, we have those stories too. So I do want you to not feel discouraged if you have what I would say some weak points in your application. So this would be a great place to think about spending some skill points if you notice that you have a couple blemishes on your application. So if you do have a course that you didn't perform very well in, you could always consider retaking it. Maybe there was something going on in your life. Maybe COVID hit and you were all online and you were trying to adjust. But if you get the chance to retake it and show the admissions committee that, hey, I do know this material, just taking it previously, I didn't succeed at it, or I wasn't as set up for success as I would have liked to have been. Another great way to strengthen your application, let's say that a couple years ago you didn't do so great in maybe beginning chemistry, but as you've matured and as you've gone through college, you've gotten stronger in your coursework. A great way is to take higher level courses or additional math and science courses, because we're looking to see, are you ready to succeed in pharmacy school? No College of Pharmacy wants to accept a student that cannot make it or is not ready to be successful. We all want you to be a pharmacist, and we don't want you to struggle in that path. And so showing us that you are ready by taking those additional courses is a great way for us to go, oh, they've matured, they've got their stuff together. I think we're ready to welcome them into our doctoral program. Another thing is, a lot of students really focus on those core prerequisite courses, and they focus on doing their science and math, and they're like, oh, I've completed all these, I'm ready to apply, and they don't take additional courses. Not that you have to necessarily, but some students should spend a little bit of time working on their writing and speaking skills. This is, pharmacy school is a doctoral program. It is heavy on writing and speaking, as you're going to be working directly with patients, other healthcare providers, and being an expert in drug information, you have to also be an expert at communicating it. So if you do a little bit of self-reflection and you're like, you know what, I don't have to take another writing course, but I know it's somewhere I want to go into pharmacy school not struggling with, take that additional course to make you a more successful pharmacy student so that you don't feel like you're having to struggle with that in pharmacy school. Big, huge recommendation there. Another thing to think about is a lot of schools don't require the PCAT. Some will not accept it. Others will accept it even though it's not a requirement. So if you didn't do so hot in like a chemistry course, but you take the PCAT and you absolutely slam it, then yeah, absolutely share that score. If you have a really great PCAT score and the school accepts it, share that, because that kind of balances your application, as many of us look at applications in a holistic stance, meaning we look at your courses and your PCAT and your leadership, and we kind of balance that into seeing what you look like. Next slide, please. Then let's take a look at some hot tips for your academic history. Report all academic institutions, all the schools that you've attended, including in progress and planned courses. Once your application has been submitted, like you've officially submitted it to PharmCast, you can't remove institutions that you've said you went to, but you can always add additional. Transcripts that you receive are sent directly to PharmCast, and your official test scores, whether it be the PCAT or TOEFL, are sent to PharmCast directly as well. Next slide, please. So another really great place to spend your skill points is the supporting information. This is where you're going to have things like letters of recommendation, experiences, leadership experiences, achievements, and things like that. So this is really where you can highlight that leadership that you have, your dedication to the profession, and some of your amazing achievements. Next slide, please. So in terms of seeking evaluations or someone to write you a letter of recommendation, the things that they're going to be writing about is your ability to adapt, empathy, ethics, your intellectual ability, your interpersonal relations, judgment, leadership, your oral communications, your reliability, and your written communications. These are all the components that they write about. Now, certainly you could ask someone to write about it, and maybe they don't know much about your written communications. There is the ability to select not applicable, or I don't know them in this capacity. So don't feel like you have to select someone that can answer all of these things. But whenever asking someone, I do think it's very important that you're very candid about your request. At the very end of the recommendation, after they fill out these top components, they say, I highly recommend this candidate, or I recommend with reservations, or I do not recommend. So there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, Clayton, will you write me a letter of recommendation? And I'm wondering, would you be able to highly recommend me? Being very upfront with what you're seeking is only going to let you know what their response is. And there's nothing unprofessional about that. It is just being very open about what you're seeking. And if they say, I can't do a highly recommend, that's okay. And you can seek a recommendation elsewhere. Next slide, please. As far as your experiences, this is a great place to show your dedication to healthcare. So maybe you go and you shadow a pharmacist or even a student pharmacist that's out working in a clinic. This is a great way to show, I'm really interested in healthcare. I'm trying to learn more. I'm trying to become stronger in this, and I'm trying to show that I'm ready for this. You could also consider volunteering at a clinic or at a service event. If there's a pharmacy school in your hometown over the summer, maybe you see if they're running a clinic that you can come be like, I know I can't help with the clinical stuff, but I'm happy to check people in the front desk. Like, I just want to see what you guys do. And so I think that's a really great opportunity. And with a lot of COVID clinics popping up, there may be an opportunity to join those as well as just someone that's checking someone in. You could also work as a pharmacy technician. Employment outside of pharmacy, you could include this in your experiences, particularly if it highlights skills that'll be helpful in pharmacy school. Like if you managed a team of employees or if you had customer service experience, those things are very important to pharmacy school. And seeing that also lets us know that you're becoming a more dynamic applicant. And then you can look at extracurriculars. With all of you guys being here, I want you to know this organization has the reputation for being the creme de la creme of student pharmacy leadership. You guys do an excellent job. I don't think there's any imposters in this group for sure. But I do think there's a lot of great leadership, a lot of project management like today. And so if you are a newer member of the organization, start aiming for those leadership goals in the future or project management goals. It really does a great job for your pharmacy application. Next slide, please. And then in your achievements is where you're going to put things like honors that you have, awards, any publications or scholarships that you've won. As far as license and certifications, the question comes up always, do I have to have a technician license or do I have to have a pharmacy intern license? Pharmacy experience at all? You don't. Absolutely. I did not have it coming in. I do think if it's something you can get experience in, it will just make pharmacy school a little bit easier for you. But if you can't do it with your school load, I do not want you to think that is going to prohibit you from getting into pharmacy school. Next slide. In terms of your program materials, this is the last section that you can spend skill points. This is specific information for each program. They're usually going to be maybe some additional essays, and my recommendation here is to proofread, stop, think about it, and proofread again. Always with your essays. And if you can, get a friend or a family member to read it as well, just to give it that second pair of eyes. And then lastly, be extremely careful not to plagiarize, as the detections for this is very advanced and there are severe consequences. And sometimes we do it without knowing. So if you do read someone else's essay just to get a little bit of inspiration, my recommendation is to read it, step away from it for like a day or so it's kind of out of your head, and then restart your own essay with having a little bit of distance. Next slide, please. And with that, I am happy to report that I am done and I am ready for all of your questions. So any questions you may have about applying to pharmacy school, or if you want to talk about gaming nerdy stuff, I'm happy to answer those as well.
Hi, thank you for your presentation, Dr. Christensen Grant. I think just a quick question. What are like some specific or some tips you would give some students applying to pharmacy school on how to like better stand out to become a better applicant?
Certainly. So some of the tips I would say is, I want you to realize it's so impressive to see students in undergrad taking leadership roles. It is very impressive. And I want you guys to know, you're at UCI in this organization. It feels like you're in a big group of students that you're like, how do I stand out? Compared across the country, you are standing out. This is such an amazing organization getting that leadership. Another thing that you could do to stand out is getting just a little bit of those experiences, because whenever you interview, we are going to ask you situational type questions. Tell me about a time when you were in a leadership role and what you did. Tell me about a time when you were working maybe with a patient or customer and the interaction didn't go great and how you responded. So just putting yourself out there with some of those experiences, even if they're a little bit uncomfortable, are going to make you a stronger applicant, a stronger pharmacist, and just a stronger person as you learn how to interact with folks, for sure. And mock interview.
Unfortunately, we don't have much time for any other questions, but thank you again for answering our questions. Can we please get another warm round of applause for for Dr. Christensen Grant?
Any questions, feel free to email me. I'm happy to answer them. Have a great day. Thanks for inviting me.
At this time, we will have a short break, 5-minute break. So please feel free to stretch and use the restroom if needed. However, please make sure that you return to this room for the Dean and School Representative panel. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you
Thank
so
you, Dr.
much,
Christensen
Dr.
Grant.
Grant.
Thank you.
You're always
Thank you.
amazing.